Meeting of the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District at 5 p.m. and went into closed session. We have nothing to report from that meeting. I'll now reconvene the regular meeting. Karen, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Hands over your heart, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Director Malloy.
Here.
Director Mishler.
Here.
Director Dixon.
Here.
Director Magner. Here. Chairman Kelly.
Here. Amendments to the agenda?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Director Magner.
Aye.
Director Malloy.
Aye.
Director Mishler.
Aye.
Director Dixon.
Aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye. Presentations A, District Highlights.
Good evening, Chairman Kelly, members of the board, general manager, staff, visitors, guests, and viewers at home. I am Eric Story, your Recreation Services Manager. Tonight I am presenting the district highlights, which will focus on one specific but very important program. Game On, our fun-free events in July program. So I have our recreation leader, Mitchell Beinfest, here with me. He is doing the really important task of holding this for everyone so we can see, but it will also be on the presentation. So, fun-free events in July. It's a program we started last year as part of the National Park and Recreation Month, which is an NRPA initiative since 1985 to celebrate all things parks and recreation. So last year we started it to celebrate. In 2018, so last year, we had 2,694 participants, 17 different community partners that helped make this program a success. So here are our events this year, which Mitchell is also holding. We have some classic events that we've done before: movies in the park, the concerts with the Camarillo Community Band, family float night with the Aquatic Center. On here for July, we also have the Summer Concert Series. Event number 2 will be on the 27th. We're also trying some other new things: sidewalk CPR at the Aquatic Center, a pickleball tournament this morning where we had 28 participants. We also have, again, a senior center bingo bash at the end of the month as well. A lot of cool events coming up. This Saturday is our Art in the Park event. It's going to be a big one. All right, so 2019, what's it about? We have 13 new activities, 17 classic ones, much like I just mentioned. We have 2 events with the City of Camarillo, and we have 1 inauguration, which will be the inauguration of our dog park mayor. So some of our goals this year. So we want to increase attendance to 3,000 through all of our programs. Yes, there is an asterisk on there. We're not necessarily counting the Summer Concert Series, as those are larger events and they're standalone. We also want to expand it with 20 community partners. So much like on Monday, the Camarillo Youth Basketball Association partnered with us for the 3-point competition. So we're going to be growing those partnerships throughout the community. One thing also to remember is last year we won an award for this program. So I should say this is an award-winning program. So if there's no more questions, we look forward to getting our game on this year.
Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you.
B, part-time volunteer recognition.
Sorry, I'm a little taller.
Oh.
I adjust this. Okay. Good evening, Chairman Kelly and members of the board. It is my pleasure to present the Part-Time Employee Year of the Year Award. Mitchell, will you please join me at the podium? This is Mitchell. Mitchell Beinfest and his sister started with the district in 2017 as camp staff, only weeks after moving here from Florida. Not only did he not know many people here, he was leaving to go to school in Arizona. So we thought we only had him for a summer. Well, much to our surprise, Mitchell decided to return to camp the next year and work year-round to help with the senior center and events. Trust me when I say this was greatly appreciated. Mitchell was nominated by 3 senior staff for his outstanding work ethic, his willingness to be a team player, a self-starter, his ability to serve customers, and mentor new recreation leaders as they learn the ropes with events and camp. Now, because I'm Mitchell's direct supervisor, I'm lucky enough to know that there isn't a time Mitchell doesn't have a smile on his face and isn't eager to help, as you can tell. So one example, and I've been giving him a hard time for this all summer, is we asked for help with all the events we have going on this summer, as you saw our July calendar. And we asked by way of a sign-up sheet. Mitchell wrote his name on every single event. By the time he got to page 4, he had given up writing his full name and started writing his initials. And I also might have tricked him here tonight, thinking that he's helping with a recap for summer concert series. So these are just a few examples of his willingness to help the district. So in the short few years he has worked with the district, he has become a trusted staff that can be put in a position of authority and is respected by other staff for his knowledge, compassion, and expertise. When he is not spending time working for the district, which is rare, as I just said, Mitchell is studying history at Moore Park College, traveling, and enjoying baseball games. Mitchell, I want to not only congratulate you, but thank you for all your help with the district. I want a family picture. Yes, we might have told your parents and your sister.
Eric, you want to bring them up here? Yep. Why don't you guys come over here first?
They want to get a family picture too.
Once we come in, we don't leave.
Came in.
Well, first.
Get the family.
Yeah.
My favorite grandson. My only grandson.
Yeah.
Put the little guy in the middle. Dog on the end.
All right, you guys look this way, please.
Thank you. Thanks for holding up.
Hang on.
No, let him with the council.
I'll pin them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations. You're welcome.
Thank you. When I saw you holding a poster, I said, I know how they got it.
That's how they are, aren't they? You're not paying them. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Big smile. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Congratulations again. Look forward to seeing you. When they walked in, I went, oh, that has to be his family. Yeah.
So it looks like we're going to talk a little football.
Chairman Kelly, directors, members of the board. I'm Lanny Benny, Recreation Supervisor here at the Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District, and tonight it is my honor to introduce James Driver, the president of the Camarillo Cougars Youth Football Club. Before I get James up here, I just wanted to point out, on top of what Eric stated, that they're also going to partner with us in the punt, pass, and kick on Monday, July 15th out at Pitts Ranch Park. So with that, James.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and fellow members, thank you again for having us. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Eric and Lanny, who make our program a success as well, because anything that the Cougars have needed or have asked for, they're so responsive to us, and we greatly appreciate that. So tonight, I'm just going to go over our presentation that we have. It's a slideshow here. So again, the Pleasant Valley Park and Recreation. This is the 2019 annual update. Just a little bit about us. We have an executive board. We'll talk a little bit about the history, the GCYFL, the current state of our program, the changes of 2019, the grant and partnership. And there below you can see a couple of the individuals who have come through recently have played with the Camarillo Cougars. 5 of the 7 individuals this year at Camarillo High School that received awards were former Camarillo Cougars within the last year and a half. So we're very, very proud of these young men for going on to Camarillo High and achieving great things. As mentioned, I am the president. This is my 5th year with the Camarillo Cougars. Our vice president is Vanessa Webster. She's 5th year as well. Beatrice Driver is my wife, kind of the brains behind whatever I do. She's 5th year with the Camarillo Cougars. And our treasurer, Gregory Christine. I'd also like to just acknowledge a couple of our board members who are also here tonight. We have our equipment director, Matthew Mintz, and his wife, Jana, and she is our parent liaison. And we have Lizzie Laredo, and she is our publicity manager. Did I say Beatrice? Okay. If I don't, I will be in trouble when I get home. The Camarillo Cougars, as you know, was established in 2005. We've grown from 155 in 2005 to almost 400 in 2007. As you know, sometimes football is an ebb and flow. There has been an ebb and flow in football. You know, with all of the negative publicity out there, there's been a lot of marketing to try to curtail football, especially on the youth level, but our enrollment has remained steady. This year, we're actually increased in our enrollment, and that's a big plus. And as I mentioned, 5 of the 7 current accolades that went to Camarillo High athletes this year in their freshman division were former Camarillo Cougar players. So that's, again, a great testament, I think, to what we're trying to portray on the football field, not just with football, but also with academics. And again, one of the reasons why we are so big on staying in the league that we play in is because of the ages and weights. We try to pair kids up with the same similar age, with the same similar weight, as opposed to getting out there and you have a smaller kid running and playing against a larger kid. So we believe that the GCYFL is the best league to be in for youth football. The current state, those 2 looking boys are probably in the audience. We continue to be a leading youth football program for both football and cheer. Our cheer enrollment is knocking it through the roof. We have an outstanding cheer program. And again, we utilize the facilities through the Park and Recreation. We utilize Mission Oaks and also Pitts Ranch Park this year. We also use Freedom Park when it's available, and if we need to go out there in a pinch, and it's available, we also use Freedom. And again, with the support of local companies, private individuals, and just the community in general, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is not turning away kids that want to play football. If you can't afford it, we find a way to make it happen for those young men and young women, whether they want to play football or cheer in our community. So our program this year, I believe, gave away 14 to 15 financial sponsorships this year for families that wanted to play football but otherwise couldn't afford to do so. The current state, again, we continue to have great success. We utilize both Rio Mesa as our home field. We continue to utilize them. In our cheer department, over 20 former Cougar cheerleaders have been on the Camarillo High School cheer squad since 2016. 2 of them have served as captains. Last year, the Camarillo Cougars continue their reign as state champions, winning in the JAMS cheer division. So again, that helps, again, foster not just football. We try to make sure there is something for our young ladies that want to cheer, or even young men that want to cheer as well. This is one of the things that I'm most proud of, not because I started it, but because we have a great communications director. I don't even know what social media is, to be honest with you. I don't know what FaceTime or Twitter or whatever, Facebook, I think that's what that is. I don't know. I don't do any of that. But our social media person, our communications director, Patty Harrington, is just fabulous. And she gets us out there. She gets us all the recognition that we need. She's communicating with the public. One of the great things, again, I think that she constantly communicates and gets the information out to the community, especially in our military community, making sure those military families that are arriving to Camarillo at the last moment, that have children that want to play football, we make sure that we service those families that are coming to our area for the very first time, and again at the last moment. This year, again, we're excited because for the third year in a row, we were awarded a USA Football grant. We applied, and so USA Football partnered with us, and they supplied us with a portion of our shoulder pad grant, and we were able to start purchasing new shoulder pads for kids. When the program first started, they were still using some of the same shoulder pads from 2005, and our board wanted this year to begin to transition and make sure we kept up with the times and got more current equipment for the players that are playing football. And again, we partner with USA Football. It's one of the things that we do for safety. All of our coaches must be heads-up certified. In order to coach, we make sure that they are CPR trained, as well as a part of that certification. And again, for our cheer program, we partner with AACCA to ensure that our cheer, the girls and boys that are out there cheerleading, they are operating in the safest manners, because we don't just sideline cheer, they also build towers or whatever they call pyramids. I better get that right. So they don't just stand on sideline and cheer, they build pyramids, they have dance, they have routines that they participate in as well. And then we have a competition cheer program as well that travels all the way to Las Vegas and participates. So thank you again for your partnership, for your support. Again, the Camarillo Cougars could not do this without the commitment that we receive from you and the entire staff at the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District. So thank you again. Any questions?
I just have one brief one. In your paperwork, you project that you're going to have 240 kids this year. It looks like it's going to be closer to 200.
It will probably be closer to 232 right now.
232.
So we're real close.
Big increase
Yeah,
then.
so we just signed up a kid in your parking lot just a few minutes ago. I was putting his jersey on when Lanny was texting me. I said, oh, no, we're on. And I was putting his jersey and getting him ready and getting him fitted. So we just signed up a young man in the parking lot.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah. I don't know if I missed this. This is changes in your organization from the previous year. You suspended the cheer board.
So we had a cheer board. So the cheer board was within the major portion of the organization, and we felt that really to bring things back to streamline, we really wanted to make sure long-term financially the cheer was in good shape, football was in good shape, so we kind of said to cheer, you need to come back underneath the umbrella. Several members had left within the cheer, as kids leave, the directors leave. So we felt for long-term and longevity of the program, we should just bring them back underneath the umbrella and have one board and not a cheer board and a football board. It should just be one organization.
Okay. So it wasn't, by suspended, it wasn't really just, it wasn't a major issue, it's just a streamlining process?
We suspended because we were required to suspend the operations in order to bring them back.
Okay.
And so that was one of the things that we wanted to do, and we wanted to do correctly. Along with that, we wanted to update our bylaws, and so we wanted to get kind of our directional house in order, as it were.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you, James, again. You guys, the only reason all this works is because of you and your other volunteers and your whole board and staff and everybody, all the parents and people involved. And I know kids who are in the program, they're very happy and excited.
That's great.
And playing with the program and stuff. So, and I see you out there at Pitts Ranch Park when I go down Flynn Road. I see you out there with the kids, working with them and
Hopefully
stuff.
not too loud on.
So no, great. I appreciate everything you've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mike said exactly what I'm going to say, James. I just think that this program is just a great program, and I like the reason that you are with the group that you're with. So, and thank you for volunteering. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
You mentioned a little earlier that there's a little pressure out there on mothers and fathers maybe to not have their kids play football and so forth.
Yes.
And I hope it really never comes to that, because I think sports like football, wrestling, a few others, contact sports, many times are what gives a young man, and in many cases, young women. I noticed that they're playing on the male football teams now in high schools.
Absolutely.
And I think it gives a chance for a young person to go out there and have to measure up. And I personally believe, and many might disagree with me, that that's important. I didn't have youth football when I was a young guy. I grew up on the streets of Hueneme, and we had to fight every day. And so that was that's how I learned to measure up. So this is a much better. It's a better replacement than that. But it gives the young people a chance to, hey, sometimes you just have to go out there and win it for yourself and for your team. And so I certainly appreciate all that you do, as well as all the other people involved do.
Thank you so much for those comments.
I don't have any yellow cards. Did anybody collect any? Okay. This is the time for public comment. Does anybody have anything they would like to come up and say to the board? Seeing none, we will dispense with public comment and move to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Mishler,
Aye.
Director Malloy,
Aye.
Director Dixon,
Aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye. We have a public hearing that we will have at this time. Consideration and adoption of resolution number 633, finding that it is reasonably foreseeable that inhabitants of the Fairfield LLC subdivision at 341 Mike Loza Drive, Camarillo, will be served by the renovation expansion of Pleasant Valley aquatic restroom facilities. I now declare this meeting open for public hearing to adopt resolution number 633, finding it is reasonably foreseeable that inhabitants of 341 Mike Loza Drive, Camarillo, will be served by the renovation expansion of the aquatic restroom facilities.
Technically, I've got to present first because
Why was that in yellow? Go ahead and present.
All right. Make this quick. So, tonight, you are here to consider the district's use of Quimby fees from the Fairfield LLC development at 341 Mike Loza Drive. The district did receive a little over $2 million in fees in January of 2015. And the district is proposing that district staff is proposing that the fees be used to expand and renovate the aquatic center restrooms and showers. A little background on Quimby fee process. There are a certain number of codes that we have to abide by in order to spend the money. Listed in the presentation and in your staff report are the pertinent codes 66477, 65090 if the money would be spent outside the neighborhood that the fees were received from. 65091 for the same reason, and 66451.3, which deals with public noticing requirements. Additionally, we have to abide by the rules laid out in Chapter 18.30, Section 010 through 120 of the Camarillo Municipal Code. So, staff analyzed this particular project with the mind as to where exactly can we spend Quimby fees. If the fees are to be spent within the exact neighborhood from which they were received, there are no real restrictions in regards to what you can spend them on, except for that they can't be spent on maintenance. If you are going to spend them outside of the neighborhood, you must follow Government Code Section 66477, subsection A3B, which I've outlined in its entirety on this next slide. This project, in specific, on the right-hand side, meets each one of the subsection items and requirements to be spent for the money to be spent on this project. The neighborhood where the fees need to be expended, or the fees will be expended, contains less than 3 acres per 1,000 residents. That is measured out to be about 2.35 acres per 1,000 residents around the Aquatic Center. The neighborhood which contains the subdivision for which the fees were paid contains more than 5 acres per 1,000 residents. The state standard is actually 3 acres per 1,000 residents, but Camarillo's standard is higher than that, and that's 5 acres. Camarillo is able to raise that standard in accordance with state law. However, that's the neighborhood in which PV Fields is located, and so there is 11.69 acres per 1,000 residents there. The legislative body holds a public hearing prior to the fee expenditure. That's why we're here tonight. And the legislative body makes a finding supported by substantial evidence, which is what we were about to do. According to reservation and registration data and the fact that the pool is the only public pool within the city of Camarillo. The fees are then supposed to be spent within the city's specified radius, which is the city's sphere of influence, which is essentially the entire district as well. So in order to establish a neighborhood from which the fees were received from, the staff looked at the way the law is written, and the law relies a lot on census-designated zones and blocks and things along those lines. So the staff determined that a census block group 1 in the city of Camarillo, or block group 3 or 1, I'm sorry, I don't have my note in front of me, is the Village at the Park block, essentially, between Pleasant Valley and Lewis Road, and this entire area here highlighted. Subdivision is there in the old 3M complex area, and that is how we used, that's the area we used to determine the number of acres per 1,000 individuals. So this includes Pleasant Valley Fields and
Woodside Greens. Woodside Greens.
Yes, thank you. This is the proposed site for which we would be spending the fees in, the Aquatic Center. Now, as the Aquatic Center is the only pool in the city, I feel like we can't hammer that home enough here. Instead of using a single block group, the staff chose to use 3 census tracts in the city of Camarillo to show a wider area a wider local area in which it serves to establish a larger neighborhood. This area, including 54.04, 54.01, and 54.03, that measures out to approximately 2.35 acres per 1,000 people of park space. So you meet both thresholds there. So furthermore, staff, once again, would like to point out that this is the only public pool in the district in the city. It does host classes unique to the location. These classes aren't offered anywhere else in the city. Contains a large slide structure, which as far as staff knows is the only public pool with a large slide structure, because it is the only public pool in the city, and is the only lap competitive swimming public pool available in the city. The public pool also serves approximately 89,000 users annually. So, using that logic, we determined that it is reasonably foreseeable that residents of that subdivision will be amongst those 89,000 people and will be using some of our district classes and be using the pool, as it is the only public pool. Additionally, while there are pools in the actual neighborhood that serve that exact apartment complex, none of them are available for the same reasons that our pool is, which is why the staff doesn't necessarily find those to be truly a competitive pool site compared to the Aquatic Center. So there is no fiscal impact from this action. However, this action will enable the expenditure of Quimby fees from this development, Fairfield LLC, to support this project. So the recommendation is as follows. The board adopt Resolution 633, finding that it is reasonably foreseeable that inhabitants of Fairfield LLC's subdivision at 341 Mike Loza Drive will be served by the renovation and expansion of the restroom facilities at the Pleasant Valley Aquatic Center, and therefore direct staff to expend said subdivision's Quimby fees for said project. Any questions? I'll put the rest back there.
I already opened the meeting before, so we'll just get a continuance on that, okay? Mark?
My only comment would be, I mean, I know everybody in Camarillo hates the way the city's grown. There's so much more people and so much more traffic, but this is the actual upside, is that when it comes with all that, we get some money for additional facilities, and the shower area in the pool is way overdue for renovation, as are a number of other of our 30 and 40 and 50-year-old facilities. So this is a great opportunity, and this is just sort of a routine thing we have to do based on law. But I'd like to point out that it's a really good thing for the community that we get to do this.
Thank you, Mark. Doc, you have anything?
No.
Mike?
No, this was good.
And I think it's wonderful that that's what we're doing. I've gotten emails and letters about we need to take care of that restroom, so, and shower area, so money well expended.
Just for the public's clarification, we get certain money when projects, construction projects, housing projects, and such are built. And it goes into a certain account, and we can't spend that money on anything other than what the law allows us to spend it on. Well, we wanted to spend some of that money on these restroom facilities because we feel that they would benefit the entire city and district. And according to law, we have to make the case that that, in fact, is the case. And so that's what Anthony so aptly just did.
Okay.
I move that the board adopt resolution number 633.
Wait, we have to have members of the public.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake.
That's all right. I already made the first mistake. I now declare the meeting open for public hearing. Would any members of the public like to comment on this resolution? If you do, you have 3 minutes to address the board. Seeing none, I will ask if any member of the public would like to address the board and speak against approving this resolution. Seeing none, I now declare this public hearing closed.
Now I'm going to make the proposal that the board adopt resolution number 633.
How about 6434?
No, we're on 633 right now.
It's 3-3.
Sorry, I turned the page.
Now you've made the third mistake.
I know.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make it good.
You guys have 2 more chances.
I'm going to second it. I'm going to second it anyhow. I'm going to second whatever Mike said.
Director Mishler,
Aye.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Malloy,
Aye.
Director Dixon,
Aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye. Leo, you're up. But before you do, let me announce we are at number B, consideration and adoption of resolution number 634.
Chairman Kelly, members of the board, tonight I am going to ask that you adopt Resolution 634, which will be for the fiscal year 1920 budget, which includes the general fund budget, the assessment district, and the park dedication budget, also known as Quimby fees. We have already held part of this budget process. We've held 3 budget workshops, which began in April and concluded in May. In June, we had the preliminary adoption of the preliminary budget, and this is the final step of the adoption of the fiscal year 1920 budget. A little bit of background, the district's had a few challenges this past year with the growing demand of parks and facilities. We had the Hill Fire, and we have continuing state legislation that the district's having to deal with. We also are dealing with the rising cost of the unfunded liability, our health care, our minimum wage increases, as well as utilities. The preliminary general fund budget for Fund 10 for 1920 is going to have revenue over expenses of $29,201. Our capital and Quimby fee projects for the year will equate to $964,000. This is a slide to show the comparison of our 1819 budget versus the 1920 budget. As you can see, there's tax apportionment, revenue, personnel, supplies and services, and capital. Fund 10 personnel expense changes that we have coming up is a 2% COLA increase for full-time and part-time year-round employees. We've added an administrative analyst position. We reclassed a part-time year-round recreation specialist to full-time recreation specialist. And we've moved part-time year-round staff to line 6100 in our budget, which is the full-time wages. We have a recent update since I came to you in June. 3 weeks ago, our server crashed. We had budgeted for that in fiscal year 1920 of about $12,000, but we were forced to buy a server in the last 3 weeks, and that expense is going to be coded to fiscal year 1819. So with that, we have that $12,000. We reallocated those funds, and I will show you on the next slide how we did it. So you'll see we made some budget adjustments, but keep in mind this never changed the bottom line. Our revenue over expenses stayed at $29,201. So what I did is I reduced computer hardware software by $12,000. That was the price of the server. Since we bought that in fiscal year 1819, we didn't need that expense in 1920. I then reallocated those funds because with the new server came additional cost. We had to increase our telephone $4,300 and our internet services $768. And then in the middle of June, CalPERS held their meeting to determine the premiums for for calendar year 2020. And their insurance premiums are going to go up 11%. I budgeted 7%. So dependent on what the employees choose during open enrollment, I put the remaining $6,900 into medical insurance to help offset that 4% gap that we have. Any questions on that $12,000 reallocation before I move on? Nope. Okay. So now we're moving on to capital projects. And this is a slide that you've seen before. It's showing the 14-15, 15-16, 16-17, and 17-18 actual of what the district actually spent. It's showing 18-19 budget as well as the 19-20 budget. These are the projects that the district will be working on during fiscal year 1920. As far as for our capital, it's the Freedom Park parking lot and Skyway Drive, PV Fields painting, replacement lamp poles at Mission Oaks Parks, lighting at Springville Tennis Courts, and a community center marquee sign, 2 fleet vehicles, and a Charter Oak irrigation system for the trees. That equates to $464,000. Moving on to our Quimby Fund projects, we have one project scheduled for right now, and that's the shower and restroom at the Aquatic Center that Anthony just discussed. That's going to be $500,000. Now we have our assessment district, which is Fund 20. Fund 20 was formed in fiscal year 15-16, and for our rate adjustment for fiscal year 1920 is 3%, which means you'll see a $1.20 increase on your property tax bill for the assessment tax. If you have a full benefit, it'll be $41.32. This slide shows the budget comparisons, again, 18-19 versus 1920 with our revenue, personnel, supplies, services, and our total expenses. This evening, I asked that the board adopt Resolution 634, including the 3 budgets for general fund, assessment district, and park dedication fees for fiscal year 1920. You have any questions?
Start with you, Mike.
No questions. Thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
I have no questions. I'm just thinking about how nice it is to be done with this topic.
That's what I was thinking.
After so many months of work, and how comfortable we all are with how it went, and the health insurance rate things is sort of not fun, but that's just the nature of that business. And CalPERS, unlike most of you watching out here, you work for a company and you have one health insurance, you either sign up, you don't. Our employees have a really better deal than that because as being a CalPERS agency, they get to select from all the health plans that CalPERS offers. And there's how many? 8, 10 of them? I'm looking at 5 HMOs and 3 PPOs. Okay, so that you have 8 different choices. And the employee gets to decide during open enrollment which one they want to be in. And when one goes up 30% and another one goes up 4%, there tend to be some shifts. So we don't really know exactly how it's going to work out until we get to essentially the midpoint in our year and see what the employees sign up for. But we budgeted for the full 11%, so we'd probably be okay. That's all I have.
Anything?
No, it is. I'm grateful this is over too. It seems like every year we finish this process, and it almost seems like we're starting over. Almost, it's like the Golden Gate Bridge. You finish one side and start over again. But
Well, just for the public's knowledge, Director Malloy said this on a number of occasions, but I'll say it again tonight. And as he already said, we've worked on this for many months, looked at a lot of figures, a lot of discussion and so forth. And so just because we're holding a vote without much discussion tonight, it's only because we've been working on this for months and we're glad to be done with it. I now declare the meeting open for a public hearing to approve the district's budget for 2019-2020 fiscal year. Members of the public are now invited to provide comment only towards the district's budgets for the 1920 fiscal year. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak for approving the budget? You have 3 minutes to address the board. Seeing no members of the public who wish to speak, I will move on to those who wish to speak against the budget. You'll have 3 minutes to speak if you wish to speak. Seeing that no one wishes to speak, I now declare this public hearing closed.
I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 634 for fiscal year 2019-2020 final budgets.
I'll second.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Malloy?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
aye.
Chairman Kelly?
Aye. Finally, new items. Before I make another mistake, let me make sure. No, I'm good. I'm good. It's hard to do this job sometimes when you can't see. You guys probably didn't know that. Number 9, draft design concept for Arnale Ranch Park renovation.
Okay, before I hand it over to Lacey Withers, who's been the architect on this, just a little bit of quick background. So tonight, what we'll be looking at is this is the draft design. So we'll be looking at the board to give us direction if there's any direction or any changes and such regarding the draft design concept. We got here because back in January, or actually prior to that, back in November, we had gone to the Long Range Planning Committee to talk about a potential grant, Prop 68 grant that we could apply for. So since that time, staff has been working to get an RFP out, working with to get that information out, hiring Withers and Sandgren to actually be part of this design and part of this process. So for the past month and a half, there's been 3.5 community meetings, and I say half because there's a pop-up, but what she will do right now is take you through kind of what the progression is, where we're at to date, and how we got here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lacey.
Hello. Like Mary said, my name is Lacey Withers. I'm a principal partner with Withers and Sandgren Landscape Architects, and we were thrilled to get this project and jump on board on this crazy schedule and make it happen. And we did, and I'm hoping that you guys will be as excited about the final product as we are. Just to do a quick summary of where we came from, so you'll understand how we got to where we are at. Like Mary said, we have had a series of 3.5 workshops. 3 were scheduled and officially outreached to the public, and then the half, or the pop-up event, was actually we set up inside the park and just tried to capture what was happening on a typical weekday and gathered lots of information from people that came up to us and talked to us about a bunch of boards that we had presented to the group or or to the park, I should say. And workshop one, the focus of workshop one was to reach out to the public and find out what they liked about this park and what was working for them and what wasn't working for them. We got lots of feedback. We also put out some inspiration boards that had a bunch of different images on it to get people thinking and make them aware of what was happening out in the world of new parks. We ended up putting out a questionnaire and got back, I think, about 40 questionnaires we ended up with. And as part of that workshop one, we actually broke out into many groups. No, I'm sorry, that was not. Yes, we did. We broke out into about 9 different groups, and people listed their priorities and their concerns. So that was really fun. And then as part of workshop 2, we put together all the results from workshop 1, and we presented them to the group, and that allowed us to share what was the priority from the majority of the people and what was the lower priorities. So that helps to make people understand that maybe even though you're an immediately adjacent neighbor and you have some problems with the park, there are a lot of people out there using the park in different ways, and that they have important ideas about it as well. So I think that was really successful. We were this is a lot of the information that we received back during from workshop 1 that we discussed with workshop 2, with the group from workshop 2. And workshop 2, actually, we came out with design challenges that we presented to the group, and that allowed them to really understand what was happening and then the complexities of trying to please many different people. So this was given to the community, and then they were asked to actually design their park and help us place the elements that were popular or were the high priorities from the group. And we asked them to keep in mind the concerns about the neighbors that were immediately adjacent to the park and be considerate and respectful of their needs. And we broke out into about 6 groups on this one, and each group presented to the community their ideas. And actually, out of, I guess it was 7 groups, 6 groups. Out of each of these designs, we actually came out with some really important information and usable information. It was quite successful, I would say. And then these were the common responses that came out of that meeting. The track was really important to everybody, to keep the track as it was, actually. We had made some proposals to do some changes on it, and they said, nope, we like it exactly the way it is. They wanted to improve and expand play equipment. The open green space was really important to everybody. Even though they appreciated adding new things and they wanted new things added, they really wanted to keep that central open green space there. They wanted to add in a therapeutic or meditative space. Fitness areas obviously are a priority. Shade was a priority. They really wanted seating around the track for some of the elderly people or the people that were visiting and hanging out. So we did add that in as well. They wanted the bathrooms to be updated. They were excited about having nature play. And including natives and adding trees and really promoting habitat for the local ecosystem. We talked about what the priority of a dry creek stream bed would be, and the idea of capturing rainwater and infiltrating to increase our groundwater. People were excited about that, wanted to include that. And then the big idea of new recreation for this park would be a challenge course. So it fits within the fitness theme. Everybody was excited about that, but what it really came down to is where could we put it, because we wanted to make sure we were respectful of the neighbors. This is just some images of our pop-up event that was held just after our second workshop. And then during workshop 3, we presented 2 concepts, concept A and B. And out of these 2 concepts, A was actually the priority. They preferred A over over B, but they also liked some elements in B. So as part of the final design, we incorporated some elements from A into B. And this was the questionnaire or the questionnaire results, I should say, that came out of workshop 3. And it basically told us why they preferred A and what they wanted to see in the final design from A and B. So this is our final draft, I should say our draft final design concept, because before we take it to the community with Workshop 4, we were hoping to get your feedback. We did also meet with, I don't know if you mentioned that or not, Mary, but we met with the planning, long-range planning committee meeting. Many folks that were actually here tonight. And so we also talked about what we liked from Concept A and Concept B and what they felt worked well for the community, worked well for the maintenance staff, and what would be able to be comfortably improved with this final design. So within the final design, we have, it's a little hard to see at this scale, but we still have maintained our green open space in the center. We moved the fitness stations that were within the inside of the track to the outside of the track, because we've kept fitness stations, we've kept fitness zone, we've kept playground equipment, but we've expanded it, and we've included nature play, and we've included games, which are like ping pong tables and cornhole. Oh. Okay, thank you. So we'll see if I can work the pointer. Okay, so this, as I said, this is the big open space, and we've removed the fitness stations to the outside of the track now, to provide more area for that green open space in the center. And because we're adding in this piece right here, which is, let's see if I can find it again, the challenge course, we were taking a little bit of that green space. So we were working hard to find more green space so that we don't do a take on that. So what we did actually was we modified this section over here and we originally had a fitness station over there, and we took that space out and picnic tables out, and we've made that just grass. So we've picked up a little bit of additional green space there. So the games that we're talking about are in this area under the big trees in here, and we're keeping the group picnic area that was just recently installed. But we are adding a few feet of concrete paving on the east side of that group picnic area because we need to meet ADA. ADA requirements have changed a bit, and so in order to do that, we've added a little bit of additional space on that side to meet that requirement. So again, we have a larger playground. We have the games in this area, and then we have this dry creek bed, or bioswale is another term for it. But really what it is it's a water collector. So it is attached to the storm drain inlet that's right in the center of, actually it's not quite in the center of the park, it's right around in this area here. So that's our overflow. So the plan is to drain the interior area of the park into that drainage swale so that we can recharge our groundwater. And then in a big event, in a large event where there might be an overflow, we have an overflow drain so that it'll drain out to the storm drain system. Now, a couple of these items are important to be included in order to make us eligible for the grant and get points for the grant. And the environmental elements like the groundwater recharge and the use of natives and the creation of habitat and those things are important, and they give us good points for the grant. We have included a therapeutic meditation space in here, and again, like I said, we had some fitness stations in and around the outside edges, and we have a fitness zone as well. And then the other big improvement here is we're including a new restroom building, a prefabricated restroom building. But we also want to do entrance improvements, because one of the big issues with this park is that the entrance is not welcoming. It's not particularly inviting. And that wall is serving a purpose to keep the wall that is along the frontage in front of the parking is important to keep vehicles from coming into the park, but it also keeps people out of the park in a way that it's difficult to bring coolers or equipment or big bags of, soccer balls or easy ups if you were having a party. So we wanted to change the entrance to this park. And what we've done is we've actually moved on the ends here, we've moved the barrier back further. And what we've created is a view fence rather than a wall, so that it's more visible through. And that view fence, we've moved let me see if I can explain it correctly. We've moved the fence back on the ends, but where we can't move the fence back because the track comes very close to that wall, we've created the view fence. But in order to protect the park from vehicular access, we have included very large boulders in some of the areas so that the cars can't get in, but people are able to get in a larger space in front of the restroom building, and then on the other side where the big tree is in the parking lot. And then another element that we're including in the master plan is a permeable paving parking area, and that also helps us with groundwater recharge and points for the grant. One of the other improvements that we would like to do is improve the vehicular gate and make it an attractive, visually see-through gate so that it becomes a decorative element and a style element, and it increases the aesthetic charm of the park. So, as opposed to just a chain link.
Where is that?
That is right here. It's currently a chain link fence, or chain link gate, and it slides to let the maintenance people in and out. So we're keeping the maintenance access in exactly the same space. We're just upgrading the gate, basically. So it'll match the new fence. What else one of the big ideas that came out of the community meeting, which was really fun to be able to introduce something new that the community proposed that everybody got excited about, was this thing that we're calling the fitness trail. So this trail right in here is something that we're calling the fitness trail, and it winds its way through the park, and it allows a little bit of a different experience walking through the park. It's still a decomposed granite trail, and it still offers the idea of fitness. It's still promoting fitness, but it gets you off the track. And everyone during the community meeting and on the design team were really excited about that idea. So that was really fun to be able to include that. And then in the areas outside of the track, we've actually removed the turf, and we're promoting low natives and drought-tolerant plants. Doesn't have to be all natives necessarily, but preferably non-native plants that are ecologically sustainable, and that they also help our pollinators. And there's certain plants that attract butterflies and such, hummingbirds. So within the areas outside of the park, we've removed the grass and we've created this sort of garden fitness trail, so that when you're walking through this trail, all the plants would be low so that you could still maintain safety and visibility. That was also something that was important to the community. But it could be really beautiful, and between the smells and the flowers and the wildlife that it's supporting. It's kind of an exciting idea. It will also help us with our water budget, because I understand from the group here that the water budget is a problem, so we need to do some turf reduction. So in some of the areas that were basically a non-usable turf, we've done that. Then one of the other big things that came out of the community meeting was there is a concern that at the street ends, at the cul-de-sacs here, let's see, where did I go here? Cul-de-sacs. These 4 cul-de-sacs coming in. The there's an issue with the public not understanding where private and public, where the private-public line is, or the boundary line is. So the neighbors that live immediately adjacent to that, the park, were very concerned that they have people picnicking on their front lawns or climbing their trees, and so we spent a little bit of time in those street ends trying to figure out just how we could make that delineation more obvious. And what we came up with was we were going to extend those little low walls through the cul-de-sac and plant the edges so that it's very clear. Right now it's not real clear, it's very open. The neighbors thought it was very clear, but when I was out there the very first time, it was not clear to me. I thought, oh wow, are these extra spaces that I could have for the park, you know? So it wasn't, for me, it really wasn't clear. So we spent a little time in those cul-de-sacs to try to figure out what would be a good treatment that would work for everybody. And then another thing that came up was lighting. Lighting was important to everybody, to remove the big pole that's in the center, but then come in with low-level lighting, and lighting that would be helpful for in those winter nights when it gets dark really early and you still want to go out and use the track. So we were looking at bollard lighting is what we call it. So it's low-level bollard lighting. All the light would be kept low, but it would illuminate the paths to a certain level that it would be safe to be able to go out and use the track or the fitness trail that we're talking about. Okay, and then the paseo. We had a discussion about this paseo and what we could do in this space, because right now it's just kind of through space. It's not really an area that's used for anything in particular. So what the community and the design team came up with was, let's use that space for a therapeutic meditation area. So it's the quiet space of the park. And in this particular instance, we're actually saving the existing concrete path that goes through there, but we're removing all of the turf and replanting. And we're creating these, what I would call half-moon, decomposed granite spaces where you could put a bench. And it just becomes kind of a quiet, resting space that you can enjoy the native vegetation. So it's what we call our pollinator garden. And I don't know that I have any other new elements. I could mention that we do have, one of the things that came out of the community meeting was, I think I may have lost my pointer. One of the things that came out of the community meeting was that there was no place to sit, and that the fitness zone was being used for seats. And so when people wanted to actually go use the equipment, there were gatherings of friends that were just standing around talking. And so one of the things that came up was that we were going to put a small seating area or a gazebo, shaded structure type. Thank you. Up here, yeah. Right in this space right here. For people to sit. So not picnic tables, but benches. So we'll have a small shade structure there with benches underneath, so that if friends did, a lot of seniors actually were gathering when we were out there for the pop-up event. So that would be a nice space for people just to sit and relax. And we didn't do a big group picnic area because we were concerned about too many people in one space in that end of the park and the noise for the neighbors. But we thought a couple of benches in a shaded space would be helpful and would support the community needs. And I'm not sure I said, but the fitness zone is right in that space. Are there any questions from anybody?
Start with you, Mark.
Well, I don't have any questions because I went to all these meetings and you rolled us out to Neil and I. I just would like to say that whenever you go through a collaborative community process, you get really nervous about what sort of impossible ideas and expectations people come up with. And also, I was really concerned about the neighbors not really wanting anything to go on at the park. But everybody was really terrific. the neighbors were, very respectful of the fact that they live next to a park and they understand it's going to be used, but, they expressed their concerns and the issues they've had. The people that got active and involved really came up with a lot of great ideas. And I never really imagined this would come out as well as it is, because it enhances the open space spot, which you don't really know now, but it's like a big trough, and it's really a terrible place. That's all going to get taken care of. It's a place where a lot of people walk, but now you have a choice of walks. You can have the active walk on the track, or you can have sort of the easygoing, relaxing sort of walk through the decomposed granite, or you could come there as a couple, and one of you wants to really go for it, and the other one just wants to relax and one of you could do each. Yet there's lots of active stuff going on for the kids, and we still have the picnic area. I mean, it's just really going to make this park so much more enjoyable at so many different levels. And which you kind of alluded to but didn't mention, is that all of this is being driven by a really intense timetable based on a grant application that we're making to try and help us pay for a few $1 million of this project. So a lot of that guided the thought in the things about saving water and all that sort of stuff. But, the reality is we do need to keep saving water, because, less is more is what our future is. So I'm just totally impressed, and I want to give you a lot of the credit, because you showed people a lot of ideas and talked about why they made sense, and helped draw the parameters around the project, so that we didn't get off on some impossible conversations about, turn the track into a go-kart place. We kept it really clear. Here's the things we like and we want to protect and we want to enhance, and then here's some other ideas. So it really worked incredibly well, and that has to do with our community and you. So.
I agree. I think the community was really, really great. I mean, they were super respectful, and once everybody kind of aired their concerns, and then the others were respectful of everyone's concerns, I thought it went really well too.
Yeah.
I was really pleased.
Super.
So.
Doc, you have anything?
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what Mark. I'm also on the same committee, and so we've met it quite a number of times in a fairly short period of time, and an amazing amount of work has been done very quickly on this project, and it's turned out, I think, fantastic. And I give the credit to you. You were personally there at every single meeting, and I think part of why it worked so well with the community is the way you educated them as to what works, what doesn't work, why these things are here and why they're not, and guided the process, and took a lot of people with a lot of varying ideas, and were able to synthesize it into a project that I think everybody's happy with. I think so. Congratulations to you, and I appreciate the really great work you did on this project and the time and effort you personally put into it.
Thank you.
So,
it was my pleasure, truly.
Yeah. Now I just hope we get the grant.
Me too. We're going to try, right? We're going to try.
Yeah, I'm totally impressed just from what I'm seeing up there, and I think you've done a great job. There's so many new things that are very innovative, I would say, and new to this area. So I think that's probably going to spark a lot of interest in that park if we can get it to going. And that's what I follow a Facebook group that they're always looking for a new destination park. And I would think this would be, just because first of the location, and then the variation of everything that you would put in there. So I'm very impressed with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing I didn't mention is most of the trees here are existing. We did add in this final design, we did add a few new trees where we thought that they could use some, which was on the east end. But that's why we're kind of kept to the outside edges, is because we're staying within the trees so that not to take in the open space, not to take from the open space.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you. And I was at many of the meetings that you have with the public, and I want to say thank you again. It's the same thing that was mentioned. I like your boundary conditions around giving people boundary conditions instead of just going off, oh, we want to build a Disneyland here or something, you know. And I've seen that because we have other consultants who don't set any boundary conditions, and we end up going over to the moon and everywhere else. And it's a waste of time because no one's going to spend building a rocket ship going to the moon from the park district. So. On this map here, I do have some questions. The fence that you have there with the park, with the parking lot on the east side there, is that fence going to, you said a see-through fence, is that going to be, that fence will still keep kids out, right? I mean,
Yes.
kids won't be able to get, because that's one of the reasons we have a fence there, is so kids can't wander off into the street.
And it would be low. It would be a low fence, but, something like a decorative tubular steel, what some people call wrought iron. It's not really wrought iron, but, that you can see through.
Okay, but the kids still won't be able to get through it.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay, good. Now, on your diagram, go back to the previous one with the overview. I noticed some of these trees along the edge there on the north and south end especially are overlapping into neighbors' yards. Is that going to be, to me, that makes me a little nervous to have trees from our parkland going into neighbors' backyards. Yeah, it looks pretty on the diagram, but I'm not sure if that's going to be, you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, these actually are existing trees, and this is new and this is new, but these are existing trees and these are existing trees.
Oh, okay. So you're
So
not
they
adding.
actually
You're
are.
not adding problems. Okay. No. Okay. We have existing problems that we have to work through. So Bob over there has problems to work through. Okay. Thank you on that question. On your walkway, that new walkway, I'm not sure what the name of it is. That pathway, whatever the new one.
We're calling it the garden fitness trail or the fitness trail.
I don't see. Is there a way to add a few benches along their way there somewhere in a bend or something?
Yes.
Can we add some benches on that?
We can.
I would like to see some benches there. If people are walking through there, they want to get together and just talk and relax for a little bit. And then the next thing I want to ask is, I didn't see any bike station on this. If people wanted to ride a bike to the park and have a place to park it, but if they need to put like an air pump or something to pump up their tires, mechanical pump or something there as part of the, and I think you get points for that. I think I was asking you about that before.
Yes, we have.
I call that a bike station. I'm not sure what you call it.
We actually do have a bike station, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
Oh, there is one?
There is one at the restroom building. Plaza is what we're kind of calling it, a plaza, because we've opened up that space. So we will call that out more specifically. So
okay, I didn't see it on the diagram.
It's not specifically called out, so you wouldn't have seen it. So we will do that.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was hoping for the go-kart track. No, if I didn't know anything about this project and I'd never discussed it or seen any proposals or anything, you sold me on it just by what you've said tonight.
Great.
So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we're done.
Well, now,
Oh,
Our next
there's
step
no
is
actual physical action or what? We're just going to give
Just
general
direction.
Yep, just direction if there's any major changes or anything else you'd like to see, because the next step then would be for July 20th to present it back to the public, and then also looking at that time, as we're working on the grant now, then also looking at the cost and doing all that kind of stuff. So that'll be the next step on the 20th.
Oh, on that bike state, you're going to have a place for people to put their bikes and lock them up or something? Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, I'm sorry.
So
So when when this design is completed, we'll come back and vote on submitting the grant proposal.
So the next step will be July. So if I'm hearing the board tonight, there's some benches that we want to add. So if there's nothing other than that, then what they'll go back and add that stuff along the trail. July 20th, we'll go back to the public. That one's at the community center, if I remember correctly, 9 to 11. And then what will happen at that one is present the final draft. So the final draft will be presented. then one of the other things that we had asked him to look at is if we don't get the grant, then it would be looking at how we might phase it in. So we'll be having that conversation. July 29th, then we'll, for a special meeting, be coming back to the board to accept the grant so we can then send the grant, because the grant is due on August 5th.
So the direction for tonight, as I see it, is consideration of some benches, but basically pretty much keep doing what you've been doing.
Correct.
Okay. That's the direction.
Yay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Lacey.
Thank you.
B, consideration approval of a 2% cost of living adjustment for full-time, part-time, year-round, non-represented employees and the updated salary schedules.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
No, Anthony?
Okay, good evening, Chairman Kelly and members of the board. For those watching, I'm Catherine Drury, Human Resources Specialist. Tonight, I'm presenting the 2% COLA for the unrepresented employees and the updated salary schedule. During the April and May budget workshops, the staff proposed a 2% COLA for the non-represented employees. With this COLA, we are presenting the updated salary schedule as well for 2019-20. And this is for the full-time and part-time year-round employees. Staff has brought the COLA to personnel in June for their review. At this time, we have yet to ratify a contract with SEIU, so we're unable to award a COLA for our represented employees. That's why we're asking for just the non-represented employees right now. The fiscal impact of $31,000 has been calculated into the budget that was adopted earlier this evening, so that number's already there. This is a fast one today. Again, we are recommending that the board consider and approve the updated salary schedule with the 2% COLA for the unrepresented full-time and part-time year-round employees. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, you're up.
Oh, I don't have any comment that 2% is 1% less than the cost of living numbers for the past year. So that's what we put in the budget, and that's what I'm comfortable with.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm good with this. Thank you.
Yeah. Just your chart you put in there. Is this the highs and lows of the?
Are you talking about the salary schedule with
Yeah.
the yellow bars? Yeah. It's the current salary schedule in white, and the yellow is what the proposed 2% will look like.
But there are two columns for each one. Because
the high and low, yes, you're correct.
And,
Sorry,
and
yes.
there are multiple steps in between them.
No, we have a range. We adopted a range a few years ago instead of steps. So we have a range so we can have a little more flexibility in hiring and promotions and merit increases.
Okay. No, okay, I'm comfortable with this. Yeah.
So, Catherine, if someone is making like $30,000, they're just going to get a flat 2% on top of that, no matter where they fall into that range. Am I correct?
Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, they don't go over that range. They
Right.
stay within that range.
Okay.
The range gets adjusted.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions. Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated salary schedule with a 2% COLA for unrepresented full-time and part-time year-round employees.
Second.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Dixon,
Aye.
Director Malloy,
Aye.
Director Mishler,
Aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye. C, consideration and renewal of the professional service contract with Advantage Telecom.
Okay. Good evening again. So tonight we are asking for the renewal of the current agreement with Advantage Telecom, which is our voice over IP and ISP wholesaler who provides us internet. And this voice over internet protocol is what voice over IP stands for, anyone who doesn't know at home. And additionally, in summary, not only does Advantage Telecom provide those services for us, they also provide us a discount on our internet services at the community center in exchange for essentially a rental agreement for our roof in one particular portion of the building to beam internet across the street to another one of their clients. So a little bit of background, their current contract has been active since 2016. It came with new phones, and with that also comes with access to multiple internet service providers, whereas, for example, an individual living at home, you have pretty much access to one provider for that area. They have the option of shopping, depending on who has infrastructure in the area, of shopping providers on our behalf, essentially. So, for example, at the community center, we have Charter, whereas at the pool, we have Verizon, or Frontier, excuse me. So the staff, when considering this, the renewal of this contract, we took into account a number of different things. First of all, they're extraordinarily flexible and easy to work with. And for one example of that, during the fire, they actually were not only receiving calls from all of their clients, but they had people on call almost all night and helped us reroute our calls, because when we lost power at the community center for a period of time, at the community center, at the there was essentially a station in the hills that caught on fire and went down, and so we lost phone and internet service because that's where that circuit was routed from. They were actually able to reroute our community center phones to a cell phone for us, so we were still able to at least provide some form of communication from that center, even while we were in an evacuation center. So that was, I was really impressed with that, especially since they did that after hours during an emergency situation. Also, they are extraordinarily inexpensive, as we found out. There have been a number of cold calls that I've fielded recently in which I've given them our current contract and our current services, and they turn around about a week later and they've come back and said, well, sorry, thanks for letting us try, but we can't meet the prices that they're offering you. So that's a pretty good vote of confidence. And also that they serve as a representative between the district and the ISPs, so we don't actually ever have to directly contact Charter or directly contact Verizon or Frontier, which is a pleasant thing, believe me.
You have no idea.
Oh, I do, actually. So in addition, they're comfortable enough with us to enter into this rental agreement to extend their own services to other clients, which I also appreciate, and I think the district appreciates, in that they're willing to negotiate with us on items that aren't necessarily in a traditional wheelhouse of a regular internet service contract. So in this particular case, a little bit of summary background analysis here. On the next item up for discussion, our managed service provider for our infrastructure information technology contract, they asked us to look into bandwidth upgrades for backup purposes, for cloud backup purposes. Because currently our community center location is limited on the up bandwidth side simply because of the infrastructure that's in place around Carmen and Burnley. It's still on the old copper cable coaxial lines. And a upgrade to fiber at that location would essentially be on our back, and that'd be like a $100,000 bill because they'd have to trench all the way to the building. So if we stick with that infrastructure, which we are looking to do, they can change our bandwidth via change order. So this contract in your packet is essentially a renewal of the current contract, which at the community center is 100 megabytes per second down and 10 megabytes per second up. But that 10 megabytes per second up isn't really adequate to do a full backup image of our servers. Our IT provider essentially tried to do it, and it was going to take about 13 days to do a single upload of our servers, and that just wasn't going to cut it. So they asked us to look into it. We've looked into it, and they can provide a 900 megabytes per second down at 30 megabytes per second up, which still isn't ideal, but it's still 3 times faster than what we're currently getting. And what they recommended we do is we renew this contract, and they put in the change on bandwidth on via a change order, essentially. And in the budget, we've budgeted for the increased cost of the increased bandwidth. The radio agreement remains the same, and it will now renew with this contract, and the discount will remain the same. So what would happen is that whatever increased speed we receive, it's still being discounted by that radio agreement at the community center. So the annual contract amount would stand with the updated speeds at $17,844, and that means it's a three-year value of $53,532. That includes the community center upgrade from 100 by 10 to 900 by 30. Like I said, that has been budgeted for, and the discount still continues to apply at that higher speed. So staff is recommending that the board approve and move to approve the renewal of the current service agreement with Advantage Telecom for a term of 3 years. Any questions?
All right.
No questions. Thank you, Anthony and staff, for working on this.
I agree. I don't like that $100,000 bill. I don't think they make bills in 100,000, so I don't like that. So,
Mark?
I have no questions. I'm just, I really, whenever we're going to commit long-term like this, the quality of the service is really important. And especially when you're in a mission-critical thing like communications. And the fact that we became an evacuation center during an emergency and that they kept us going, that stuff's really important. So I'm supportive.
Yeah, I just had a question about the $215 discount on the internet services. So we've had that for the past 3 years, is that right?
No, that's actually come about in the last about 6 months.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Actually, I think I brought that to the board about 6 months ago. Yeah.
Okay. So it's proposed to go forward for
that would be for the duration of the upcoming contract. Yes.
Okay. The our internet service costs, are they fixed for the next 3 years also, or do will they go up?
Provided we don't change speeds, they would remain fixed.
Okay. Okay, that's my only question.
I think what you were telling, I'm not a big techie, so I don't know too much about these types of things as far as how they work. Was what you were saying that if we wanted to back up a server, it would still take 3 or 4 days?
Unfortunately, even with the upgraded bandwidth, we're still looking at a 3 to 4 day backup. But that's thankful, or to get a little bit into the technical speak of it a little bit, it only takes the first time to do it that long, essentially. And once that first one's done, then it's what's called an incremental backup. So they only back up what's changed compared to the first one. So that
backs up like every day or every half day or something like that?
Yeah, it just depends on the frequency. So you can do 2 days, 2 times a day, or 1 time a day. But yeah, the first one will take a long time. But once that's done, the amount of time to complete that will drastically shorten.
And so what's limiting us is the utility coming in that we hook up to, right?
Yeah, these are not throttled speeds. So there's no lever that ISP can throw somewhere that essentially will.
So no matter how much we updated our system at the district, we're going to be limited to whatever is coming in. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like in the old days when they came up with HDTV. If you didn't have the signal coming in, it didn't matter if you had an HDTV.
Absolutely. It's exactly the same. That's perfect.
Okay. Great presentation. And we have a track record here, so that's probably the best thing that a buyer could ever have when making a purchase.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of the current service agreement with Advantage Telecom for a term of 3 years.
I'll second.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Malloy?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Chairman Kelly?
Aye. D, consideration and renewal of managed information tech services contract with All Connected, Inc.
Hello again. I'm talking my favorite subject tonight. Almost favorite subject. So tonight we are in consideration and renewal of the current 12-month agreement and extending it for a period of 3 years. The current agreement was used as an evaluation period for a new IT services provider. The district transitioned from a rather non-structured contract about 12 months ago. Actually, I wouldn't even call it a contract. It was more of a month-to-month thing in which there were no real guarantees to a more professional organization, essentially. We are currently in what's called a co-managed environment. The district IT person is currently standing in front of you, even though I'm not really an IT person, but I do my best. This actually, in reality, this saves the district a lot of money to have somebody on site who is able to help to work hand in hand with this contract, because as the contract is structured, there's very little what's called help desk hours, which keeps the cost very low. So the initial contract term was 12 months. It marked the completion of the previous what's called MSP, or managed services providers' modernization tasks, including computers, phones, server equipment, things along those lines. Their onboarding included a complete inventory of the hardware and the addition of all their supported devices to the monitoring system. And I want to say supported is a key word here, because we found when they came on board that there were a number of devices that, essentially due to budgetary concerns in the previous 4 years, they were done in such a way that while professional in their implementation, they weren't necessarily considered long-term solutions. They use an operating system called Linux, which isn't necessarily widely supported in an IT environment, and it's very, very customizable, but in order to really support it, you have to essentially know the person who wrote the code in the first place, which when transitioning from one MSP to another, it's almost impossible to do. So they added as much as they possibly could to their monitoring systems and helped us plan ahead for the eventual replacement of those items. And that's what I was referring to here in the new backup and firewall solutions. That's a little bit of what I'm alluding to there. So the projects that they've completed in the last 12 months is they've added all the workstations and servers into their system, which is called InCentral, which is an online monitoring platform that I actually have access to. They have managed updates for all the workstations and servers remotely. Partial networking equipment has been refreshed, so we actually just completed that last Friday the 28th. There are now new wireless access points in the community center and senior center, and new networking switches in the community center, pool, and park office. And they have implemented a cloud backup service, which I just mentioned has currently not quite completed yet, but they're working on it. Projects in progress. Now, the emergency server replacement, I would say that's not in progress anymore. We just finished that. Not planned, but it was going to be taken care of. Unfortunately, some things don't wait for you. And the backup server had been repurposed now into a what's called a domain controller. So essentially, we've done some hardware shuffling to make things work until we can upgrade all of the hardware in the back end. But we have moved away from our older file server, which was about 5 years old, into a new one. Like I said, about 3 months, or probably about 3 months earlier than we wanted to. But both of those projects are now complete. All Connected identified a number of issues, which was part of the reason why staff's coming back and recommended that we extend their contract, is that All Connected identified that we didn't really have an infrastructure plan in place to replace the infrastructure that we had already replaced. So in a way, we basically, with the last MSP, we made a lot of upgrades, but then we made no future plans to replace those things as they came of age, essentially. And that's unfortunately part of the reason why we ended up in one of the issues that we ended up with 3 weeks ago, is that we probably should have been about 6 months ahead of where we were at. And unfortunately, things, like I said, things don't wait for you when it comes to internet and information technology stuff. So there is the concern of some aging network equipment. We do have, there are about 3 or 4 year old networking switches that are, those are your industrial networking equipment pieces. Those will need to be replaced in the upcoming years, and they identified also insufficient network bandwidth to do a proper cloud backup, and the use of unsupported or out of warranty hardware, and that's the Linux items that I was referring to. The backup server that we just repurposed, that was an old Linux server, and the Park server that has actually just been decommissioned, that was a Linux server. So we've already moved away from some of the Linux items and some of the unsupported items onto supported platforms. So that's partially been taken care of, but it's a work in progress. So with that in mind, we have kind of determined some reasons to renew the contract. We are mid-project on a number of items. All Connected has proven itself to be really flexible, just like Advantage Telecom has. Especially in, for example, a situation with the fires, they actually contacted me and said that we have clients who are essentially in the same position that you are, just letting you know we have people on staff in case you need to make a call, which for a period of time we weren't able to make any calls, so I guess it didn't really matter. Their managed service costs are comparatively low. So we pay a monthly fee for them to keep basically tabs on our equipment. And for example, we pay $15 a workstation. It's actually less than our last managed service provider. And they are budget minded. They do seek to keep the monthly costs to the district low. Although like I said, have attempted to minimize that as much as possible by lowering the amount of help desk hours that we require. So I take on a lot of the, hey, my printer doesn't work, so don't call the IT guys, just talk to me. And they are, at this point, very well acquainted with the district environment. A lot of that happened in the last 3 weeks, unfortunately, but they know very well what the IT environment looks at the district now. And if we were to change providers at this point, we would essentially have to go through that learning curve all over again with a new one, which staff wouldn't necessarily look forward to very much. So the fiscal impact to the district, the annual contract amount stands at $14,064 with a 3-year value of $42,192. However, new hardware is in addition to this, and labor costs with each individual project would be in addition to this. So we would take those as individual budget items. And help desk hours will be billed at $172 an hour as needed. So currently the district has $1,800 budgeted for help desk hours. That would give us would be 3 blocks, about 15 hours, which most problems are really short in duration. So you're talking about a half an hour to an hour in duration for most items. So staff has considered that to be sufficient. However, if that were to be gone over, we'd have to talk budget adjustment later, but that can be handled when the time comes. Hopefully we won't have to deal with it. So the recommendation from staff is a motion to approve the extension of a 3-year agreement with All Connected Incorporated for managed information technology services. So do you have any questions for me?
Just one. So they're doing a great job for us now. But what happens if that changes? They have shifts in their personnel, they have shifts in policy, et cetera, et cetera. My experience is when you have a good staff person that knows your system and is really great supporting you, the step to the next person, should that become necessary, gets difficult. Do we have an option to exit the contract should the service level not meet what we need?
We do. We do have an option to terminate the contract. There are actually, I believe there's a couple different ways we can do it. There are, for example, if we determine that they are not fulfilling their statement of work essentially in the contract, we can notify with them, and if they don't cure it within 50, there's a cure period. If they don't cure it within 15 days, we can terminate services immediately. There's another portion of the contract which essentially says that we do have the ability to cancel the contract for any reason whatsoever, and they then would have to essentially abide by that notice and hold our data for 30 days, and then by that point in time, they either have to give it to us or they delete it. So it's relatively clean in regards to decoupling, if you will. So we do have that ability.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. The ability to fire a vendor that isn't doing a good job anymore. Thank you.
I don't really have any questions. I'm just, you said this is one of your favorite topics. I'm very glad.
It comes and goes. It's a love-hate relationship.
Anthony, the $172 an hour, how do they bill that? If we use 15 minutes, are we getting charged $172? Or how do they do that?
So as for what I can, that's actually a really good question, and it's something that probably should have been specified in the contract, and I apologize. I don't think it is. It is, from what our invoices have been, they bill in the quarter hour, so it's for every 15 minutes. In almost every single job I have had them do or called them in on has been about a half an hour's worth of work, and they, at least as my experience has been now, and to Mark's point, may not be in the future, they don't necessarily take part in what I like to call and what they've called in the past adversarial billing. They don't really, if it's a job they don't like or they thought we didn't prepare for, they haven't really twisted the knife on us, which they really could have done 3 weeks ago. They are very, I would say, accurate in keeping track of their time.
Okay. That would be the only thing that I would be concerned about, because 15 minutes can be billed at an hour pretty fast. So I just, as long as we're observant about that and you feel comfortable with them, why?
Absolutely, I do feel comfortable with them, and I do think that part of the reason why that probably wasn't written into the contract is because it hasn't. It's one of those things where you don't think about it until it does happen, and I've kept an eye on it for the most part. So I'll have to continue to do so.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, Anthony, thank you again for working on this. I have no problems. Thank you.
How do you know?
About which topic?
No, how do you know it's $100,000?
For the
The trenching.
Well, that would be through Advantage, and that's a good question. That's just something that's kind of a round number that's been bandied about, and it could be a lot different. But Mary might be able to chime on this one because that's before my time here, actually.
Yeah, there was I think it was last time we were going out for services, so it had probably been about 2 years ago. We had the conversation to see if we could do optics. And we got a quote of over $100,000 to be able for them to actually tear everything up and get it all the way to our building.
Where would it come from?
It would come from the other side of I think it was either Carmen or Burnley. So they'd have to trench across the street. So anytime they're having to trench across, go through concrete, that automatically adds up.
They can't do it underneath?
Yeah, but they'd still have to trench through. So to get it from where their spot or their location was, to get it across underneath and all the way to our building where we'd need it, is about $100,000 for them to trench and get it there.
Would that be an item that we could use Quimby funds for?
I don't know.
Since it would benefit everybody in the district?
I would venture to say
Say
no, and the reason why is because it's not technically a public feature. And the reason why I say that is because, yes, we do provide public wireless access, but it's not something that's available to anybody outside of that location.
Because it's to me, it's a little bit like the guys I used to know back when I used to drive muscle cars around, and I used to see somebody get a car and have a 6-cylinder in it, and they'd put this big hood scoop on it, and we're trying to create this technology at the district, but we're going to be always limited by what's coming in. And so somewhere along the line, it might be worth it to put ourselves in a position where we could take advantage of higher levels of technology that would provide us more use.
And actually, I do agree with you. To that point, the primary consideration, this is actually talking about the other contract now, so I don't want to belabor this too much, but yes, we are looking at going up to the 900 by 30 internet services, but that was primarily for the bandwidth down. The hardware we currently have at the district that All Connected actually recommended that we use, essentially purely on budgetary reasons, is that they can handle the upload speeds easily enough, but our download speeds are actually going to be bottlenecked by the firewall that we currently have in place to about 400 to 450 megabytes per second down, which won't actually be noticeable to anybody in the district because we don't have nearly enough users to use that much bandwidth. So in reality, we're not spending a lot of money on hardware well and above what we're receiving in bandwidth. We're actually still limited a little bit hardware-wise. So we did have the option to do 400 by 20, but it was not worth the idea of doing two. Basically what would happen is we do two 400 by 20 circuits in the same box, and I'm going to get into really complicated things right now, but it would cost us more to do that than it would be just to go up an extra 10 up and lose a little bit of bandwidth on the top end when it comes to download speeds. And we're really not doing a lot of downloading. The primary things we're doing at the district that cause us the most issues are upload speeds. And that's because, for example, Bob, when he's trying to access files out of the park office, he's actually limited not by his download speed at the park office, which is provided by a radio, which is insane to me, that his download speed at the park office is actually faster than we can push data out. So the community center is the limiting infrastructure.
I was just thinking everything gets more expensive all the time, especially anything involving labor. And I don't know, maybe the board would want to consider that, maybe not. Another thing, how protected are we against extortion hacking?
Well, the firewall systems we have in place really protect us well against external threats, essentially. So direct external threats, direct attacks are pretty much, I would say, out of the question at this point. I can't really speak to how protected we are individually in regards to users, and the reason why is because anybody can get an email, and anybody can open an attachment that they're not supposed to open, and there's no amount of security software I could possibly put in place to prevent somebody from accidentally doing that. We do have antivirus on all the systems, and that's updated on a regular basis. And we do, and through that InCentral program that I was just mentioning, they have basically fingers on every single one of the computers. So they basically know the moment something is wrong.
I see.
So hopefully, if that were to be the case, they'd actually be able to quarantine certain things before it would get out of control.
If it did happen and it slipped through, how would that affect us? Somebody, the next thing you know, you get an email that says, "Hey, we want 50 grand, and if you don't give us 50 grand, we're going to destroy everything you have." Well, if we're updating and we have another server somewhere else that's mirroring whatever we produce at the district level, can't we just restart, change all the passwords, and go on, or does it seems like that software, from what I see on 60 Minutes and that's a lot more dangerous than that?
So actually, that's part of the reason why we've been talking about doing the cloud backup. Because what we do currently is so there's a 3-2-1 method. The ideal method is 3-2-1 backups, in that you have an initial server, you're backing it up into two places, and you're doing it. And I'm losing my train of thought on the third one. I can't remember exactly what it is, but we have a local backup on a portable hard drive right now. We have a second backup server that we're going to be working on moving backups into, so we'll have redundancy there. And then the third one with the cloud backup would be backing up off-site, and that one essentially wouldn't be touched in that case. So if the worst were to happen and we were to get shut down for some reason, one way or the other, we essentially have an entire duplicate system in a cloud at a server somewhere else in the United States, essentially. I believe it's in Nevada.
But wouldn't a city like the city of Atlanta, who I think got nailed recently, wouldn't they have all that stuff too?
Yes, but it highly depends on the system. So in this case, we're talking about an image of our entire server setup. We're really small, so we can do that. And in a city like Atlanta, I mean, honestly, I don't even think I can imagine what kind of IT needs they have because of how big they are. They're... I'm at this point, I'd be completely talking hypothetically, and I really don't feel comfortable.
All right.
Well, let me step in just for a second. What's basically happening at most of those other sites, they have old operating systems. They have never upgraded to Windows 10 and the newer virus systems and services out there. There's a lot of hospitals and cities that are using old operating systems, and those systems cannot be protected. And so that's where most of these attacks are occurring at systems that are not updating and keeping their operating systems refreshed and up to date.
And actually, to that point, the new server we just installed, they've disabled a service that was started in Windows like 98 or something that lived all the way through Windows 7. It was called SMB1, and SMB1 has basically been determined to be essentially kind of like almost like a poison pill. Like it's very exploitable, and any server system now past server 2016 from Microsoft that's been completely disabled, which is actually a problem that I have to work around now, because that's how printers use that to transfer files. When you scan a file to a location, you have to use that file protocol. Well, now they've completely disabled that, so you can't even use it anymore. So we have to work around that a little bit. But that's one of the biggest issues. For example, there was a problem with Intel, a chip, like a hardware chip. Those are certain things that you're never going to be able to get around unless you're using some of the newest equipment. I think we have 5 machines right now that are running Windows 7, and they're going to be rotated out this year. So we're moving hopefully in the right direction there. So
I don't have anything else.
I'll make a motion to approve the extension of the 3-year agreement with All Connected Incorp. For managed information technology services.
I'll second the motion.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Malloy?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Chairman Kelly?
Aye. E, California Special District Association Board of Directors election. Looks like seat B is open.
Good evening, Chairman Kelly and members of the board. So tonight, I am here to share with you CSDA's Board of Directors election for Seat B. So as you know, CSDA has the Board of Directors, and they do a lot of stuff. I don't have to sit up here and tell you all the things they do. They're busy people. So we have Coastal Network that we are part of from Ventura County all the way up to Santa Cruz Valley. And they stagger the seats as we are lucky enough to have Elaine be up there and be a part of that board, which is amazing. So we have 2 candidates that are up, and you guys get to vote for one of them. So the first one that we're going to talk about tonight is Jeff Hodge from Santa Ynez Community District. He's the current incumbent. He's currently the general manager. The second person is John Jack Curtis from Ojai Valley Sanitary District. He was a director for many years, 13 years now as, he's at 13 years now as a director. Prior to that, he was on staff. And as you can see, he's a part of many associations and different organizations. And so tonight, you guys are going to give me direction on who you would like to cast a vote for Seat B of CSDA Board of Directors.
I would like to recommend Jeff Hodge for several reasons. I think he visited our chapter meeting last month, and I believe 2 of the board members got to meet him. I think Mike had met him before. He's currently on the board, has been for 3 years now. He is the vice chair of our legislative committee, which is the biggest, strongest committee we have, and he has worked in legislative with legislative issues for about the last 20 years in special districts, and he's very on top of things and takes an extremely active part in doing it. So I would recommend Jeff.
And I would second that. I know Jeff now for 3 years, the 3rd year running, and I think he'd be great to stay there.
You guys good?
I'm absolutely good. Elaine works for them, so that's the best recommendation.
Do we need to hold a?
Then I'm good.
Do we actually need to make a motion on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to vote for our district to vote for Jeff Hodge.
I'll second that motion.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Malloy?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
Aye.
Chairman Kelly?
Just a moment. Mary, the agenda doesn't call for a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it says provide direction for which candidate.
So we just did.
Okay.
Okay.
Can't be clearer than that.
Looks like it's my turn to talk. Well, I'm going to be brief. I got a chance to go to the Grand Canyon. I know most of you have probably already been there before, okay? But I never go anywhere, so I went. And if you haven't been, it is the most amazing sight that you will ever see. Standing on the edge and looking a mile straight down, that's breathtaking.
You didn't take your grandkids down there?
No, I didn't. I went to actually see my mom in Lake Havasu. Now, Mary advised me of this before, so for some of you are probably like me. You think all of Arizona is a total desert wasteland. It is not. Around the Grand Canyon, they have some great hotels around there. It's only like 10 minutes to the canyon. It's a nice little town. It's got a trading post, a few things, but the hotels were great. And it's only like 80 degrees. I was there in June, and it was like 80, which was amazing. The town around, all that whole area around there never gets above 89 degrees. So I hear Prescott, Arizona is becoming this magnet, and it also is within that same temperature range. So if you haven't gone, it's really worth it, in my opinion.
Are you on the north or south rim?
I was on the south rim. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I know there's hardly anybody here, so is I now see how the forest fires start. The entire time you're up there, they are burning dead limbs and trees and so forth. It is a massive job. And once you go through there, you see, like I had heard these discussions on television about why the forest fires, because we didn't clean up the forest and so forth. Well, let me tell you, once you see that, you'll know exactly what they're talking about. There are stacks of dead wood everywhere, just everywhere. For constant. It's like painting the San Francisco Bay Bridge. It never stops. And so if they don't clean that stuff up, I could see how the whole place could just burn down in a week. Lastly, I get emails sometimes, and this isn't really the part of the chairman's speech, but I'll go ahead and cover it now so I can eliminate it from oral communications. Is if you write me and you want a personal response from me, please tell me that that's what you want. Many times I get emails and they're more like advising me of something going on in the district that you think is important, but I can't tell from the email that you want a response. And I'm really, really busy, and so I will respond. But if I don't think that you want a response, I won't. So please make sure if you want me to respond personally that you tell me that. Ventura County Special Districts Association.
We have not had a meeting since we met last time, the first part of June. And for special districts, California special districts, I spent last week at a conference. We did the planning for the next 3 to 5 years. Once that is approved by our board in September, I will share it with all the board members, because we're going to talk about CSDA fee structure and how they're going to rearrange it and things. And just a little note to us, I think we're going to benefit from it. The fee structure was developed 30 years ago, and we're revamping it. So a lot of things are changing, but a lot of good things came out of that session. So I think you'll see it.
The Oversight Board.
No meeting.
Santa Monica?
Yes, we had a meeting a week ago. No, 2 weeks ago, I guess. And some of the main things going on, there was a budget of $48 million that got approved. It was nothing, a little bit down from the year before. One of the big issues, there's two big issues going on. The biggest issue right now is going back to what Chairman Kelly was just talking about, was fire protection thing. Because of all this land that they have and trees and vegetation and stuff, first of all, they're no longer using Roundup in a lot of areas, so they can't go out and spray anymore. So now they have to do manual clearance. And then on top of that, the Los Angeles City has now banned metal. What do we call those things? Weed eaters, trimmers, whatever. They can't use metal ones because they may cause a spark. Well, their fire people are the ones out there using these weed eaters with their fire trucks. They won't let them use them, even though they can put the fire right out if it got a little spark or something. So, but basically what they're doing, they're reallocating a lot of money from other programs and redirecting it into this fire protection stuff. They're going out there trying to get rid of not only the weeds, but old trees that are dying and danger trees that are close to buildings and utilities and stuff. And so there's a big movement underway for that. And of course, as you do that, then other people start complaining, oh, well, this area doesn't look as pretty as it or nice as it used to be because those resources have now been redirected. So that's one ongoing issue. The other big issue that's going on, the city of Malibu has a long history of they love to have visitors come in and go to their restaurants and hotels, but they don't want you out there camping or hiking on their trails, on their trails. It's all their stuff. And so the Santa Monica is now, we're looking into building a trail system that's going to go along the north edge of the city, hooking up. There's a bunch of parks, local parks through Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, but also state parks and federal parks that are not connected. And there's no way to get into them because the city of Malibu has blocked access into these locations, except for the local residents and stuff. And so they're building a network of, there's going to be one trail that's going to go the complete northern extent of the city to connect all these parks and stuff. And they're going to be connected down into the coastal highway there with bus stops and stuff. So they're working on all that. So that's a long-range plan that they've already kicked off and starting to work on.
Thanks, Mike. Finance.
Finance, well, the year's almost over, and we're right on track. Everything's revenue, we've already exceeded 100% of our budgeted revenue, and we're comfortably under on expenses, and I think we're going to end on the positive side of both ends of the budget this year.
Liaison?
Liaison did not meet in June.
Well, let me just make a note on that. We have a meeting coming up, just for the public to be aware of. We're going to have a joint city and rec park board meeting on August 5th. August 5th, which should be a Monday at 6 o'clock here. And we're going to be on that date, we're going to be reviewing the plans coming back from the architect. There's going to be 4 plans for the public and us to look at. And we're going to be focusing in on that stuff. And then one of the city council members, with approval from 2 others, made a motion just to give by some background on which they're going to go back and have a follow-up meeting on August 28th to look at different ways to potentially finance senior center and stuff. So
I have that at 5:30.
I thought it was 6 o'clock. I'm not sure if Mary's going to mention that or not. I just wanted to mention it here.
It's on, we do have it on August 5th. I don't have my calendar.
I thought it was 6, but it
I'll
may
have
be
to double
5:30
check.
or 6.
It is August 5th.
All right.
But, yeah, I just want to mention that for the public. Thank you.
LRP.
LRP, okay. We did meet. We spent most of our time discussing the Arneal Ranch project that we talked about tonight. And then we spent a little time talking about the potential for future revenue from developer fees, and talked about the difference between the developer fees and Quimby fees, and but that has to go through the city. That's in our future.
Personnel?
We had a committee meeting and we discussed it earlier, the 2%.
Policy.
We have not met.
Foundation.
Oh, I have stuff. The upcoming, mark your calendars, we have the 5th annual Party for the Parks on August 24th. Early bird tickets are on sale now. Oh, 17th, I apologize. August 17th. And early bird tickets are available through July 31st for $100. So get your early bird tickets. Looking for table sponsors. Last year we sold out, and would like to give a special thanks to the Camarillo Hotel and Tourism Association for being our platinum sponsor this year. So we really appreciate that. Second thing we've got going on is a continuation from last year with our partnership with the Recreation Department, doing the food truck Fridays in cooperation with or in connection with or combining with the movies in the park. And for 5 weeks we will be going to different parks. The 12th will be at the community center, 19th at Mission Oaks, the 26th of July at Pitts Ranch, August 2nd at the library, August 9th at Kildee Park. And all of the food truck spots have been filled. So, and we have some of the best ones returning. So I see 2 or 3 of our favorites on here. So I think we're real excited about that. And we just can't thank enough our sponsors. We have great sponsors, and we really appreciate that because you make our lives a little easier. So thank you very much. August 17th for the annual party, and we have Caught Red-Handed as the music again. So, and Bert is cooking. So, awesome. Thank you.
GM report.
Okay, couple items. Just as an FYI, we had the pre-audit in June. So that went well. They'll be back in October, but there's no red flags, which is always a great thing. As Director Mishler had pointed out, we have the Senior and Community Recreation Facility joint meeting, which is August 5th at 6 p.m. Some updates with the parks. Nancy Bush Park, we should be finishing that, have the shade structure up here in the next couple of weeks. Pitts Ranch, that is in production, so they're currently working on that project. Freedom, they have hydro-seeded, put the last of the concrete in, so we're starting the 90-day period with that process. Valley Lindo project will start on Tuesday. Another quick update with Valley Lindo, if you have not heard, Cape School, which is adjacent to Valley Lindo, is going to be required to do all-day kindergarten. So they're going to be placing 2 portables out there. They're working right now to see how close they can keep them to the school. There is some logistics they'll have to work out, but that may have a little bit of effect on the green space.
What location was that again?
Cape School.
Okay.
Cape. So they're working on that as we speak. Mel Vincent is in production, hoping that will ship in the next 30 days. So hopefully by the end of July, 1st of August, somewhere in that period, we will have a restroom out at Mel Vincent. On the recreation side of it, as you have seen earlier today, we have the fun-free events in July. So concerts in the park, movies, summer concert series. A reminder that we community band is July 11th. So that starts next week. So that is right around the corner. There's a location change. So instead of being at the community center, they'll be here at the park here. A couple other things with social media. We've seen continued growth, especially with the summer concert series. If you've been on Facebook at all, you'll notice that, which was fantastic, had a lot of good Facebook posts with the summer concert series. And the first one, if you haven't been following Mayor of Camarillo Dog Park, you'll notice that voting is going on now. So there's been a lot of good feeds there. We've got a little over almost 3,400 followers with the post reach of about 10,000. Email blast of over 10,000 with a 20% open rate, which is fairly good open rate for people actually clicking and actually engaging. We're on the 3rd week of camp, and our camp numbers are up and have been trending up. So we're up on average about 10 more than we were last year. So last year at this time it was about 40. Right now we're averaging about 55. This week is a little bit lower, but that's trending up as well. So a lot of things going on. Another update, and last update I have is that I received information from Miracle League that they will be using University Prep School, which is right over off of Bedford. So we'll be having a conversation with them just regarding an MOU and access to use our parking lot as well as the restroom. So that's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Mary.
That's it.
That's it.
Mark, you go first.
Sure. That's great news on Miracle League. I'm glad to see that worked out for them. We had BCSDA meeting before last month's board meeting, so the meeting list I have is just since last month's board meeting. On June 13th, we had long-range planning, which Neil mentioned about developer impact fees. When a new project comes on stream, when they're going to level some farmland and build a bunch of houses, we get Quimby fees. But when you have infill projects, which is pretty much what all the development is now, we generally get left out on that. And so we're working on a process where when this happens, we would be able to get some similar sort of reimbursement. As Neil mentioned, I'll go through the city. So we cover that on the 13th, as well as getting a chance to look at the Arneal Ranch plans. On the 17th, Mike and I both made presentations to a homeowners group at Camarillo Springs regarding the conversion of half the golf course to housing. And I talked about why that would be really adverse to our golf course, and Mike talked about the flood plan and all the challenges of taking 36 acres of floodplain and turning it into a housing development. On the 19th, we had Finance Committee where we did our usual follow-up on the current finances of the district. And then on the 23rd, I attended an event at the Pleasant Valley Historical Society Museum where they announced the launch of their expansion plans. And apparently pretty much every organization in town is now expanding. The Boys and Girls Club's on a big expansion, and the Historical Society is on a big expansion. And during the event, they named this year's Dones and Donias, and there will be 12 new Dones and Donias selected this year. And amongst the list of names was Elaine Magner. So congratulations, Elaine. Very appropriate recognition of your contributions to our community. And then, of course, June 29th was a completely amazing thing. I'm totally a sports guy. I'm not a music guy at all. I know nothing about music. And I pretty much listen to sports talk on my radio all the time, and politics stuff is what I follow. And so I don't really know that much, and frankly, this event really scared me because it's a really big thing. People had really high expectations. The idea of doing an online poll to pick bands made me very nervous. But once again, the people came through. They picked some great ideas for music, and the staff came through with a really cool, really fun band that knew how to entertain, and it was super fun. I'd never spent any time in Constitution Park because it's one of the two parks in town that's not ours. And but it's very nice facility, very well maintained, and the way the whole thing laid out. You know, I saw with the food, when we did our first food truck event, you know, we did so many things right, but we didn't have enough food trucks, so, you know, because we were more successful than we expected. You know, you guys totally anticipated everything of this. I mean, I just can't believe with an event with so many moving parts as this one did so well first time out. And I can see a couple places for tweaks, but basically I'm not at all surprised about the community feedback. As we were folding up our chairs to leave, I had my board member sweater on, and a member of the public came up to me, and I could tell he was going to talk to me about this, and I was a little nervous. And he said, "You know, I've been coming out to these concerts for 3 or 4 years. I haven't missed one. This is the best one ever. You guys did everything so well. This was such a fun group. The way it was arranged with the dancing in front and all of that was just terrific." And I thought, thank you. But I can see why. I mean, at one point, I think there were almost half as many people dancing as sitting. It was really cool, really a lot of fun. So, including Dancing Mike. Check my wife's Facebook page for video.
We've got the evidence
of Dancing Mike, the director. And, well, I guess they'd call that dancing. But it was a lot of fun. And
if you're not sitting in the chair, it's dancing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mr. Musical here. I held my chair down. But no, staff, you guys just did an amazing job in that event. Really good. I'm really looking forward to the next three. So that's all I have.
You have anything, Doc?
Yeah, I was not going to talk about this, but Director Kelly sort of forced me into it, I guess. As he went to the Grand Canyon, I was traveling across country through the Yellowstone National Park and the Grand Tetons, across to Mount Rushmore. And if this is my first time through most of that part of the country, and it is absolutely stunning. It's how beautiful it is. It's amazing when you get out of Southern California and our congestion, what a beautiful country we live in. And I would highly recommend that. And along that way, if you ever to take that road, one of the things we just stopped is just kind of on a whim, driving past and saw the sign for the monument for the Little Bighorn, Custard's Last Stand site. And we pulled off to take a look at it, and it is definitely worth the stop. It's a very solemn site. It's also a national cemetery. It's the soldiers killed there were American Army, and a number of people who are not killed in that or killed in other wars, and other veterans who are buried there, also buried in that national cemetery. And it's a very interesting historical site. I would highly recommend stopping there. So, and along the way, as we were staying in various hotels along the way, to take off on something that Director Mishler said earlier, Roundup is, with all the bad press on Roundup that you'd think that it was would be disappearing from the shelves, you can't turn on a television station in that farm country of South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin without seeing major commercial push for the weed control system for the agricultural industry up there. So Roundup is alive and well in the middle part of this country. So, and that's all I have to say.
You have anything?
Well, I don't have any great travels to tell you except driving down the 405 to a conference. So, but I do. I want to thank the staff. I wasn't able to come on Saturday night, but all I've heard from friends and things is what a great job you guys did. And just to say what Mark had said, that first time out, I think it was just a bang-up job, and that's what we expect from you guys, and you do 300% more than what we expect. So thank you so much for what you guys do. So.
Okay. I just want to say, Director Kelly, next time you want to go, let me know. We can hike down if you want. I've been down.
I hear if you get down there, you can't get back up.
Well, there are times when it's so hot you have to hike at night, but I've done
It's like
both.
20 degrees hotter down in the bottom
Yeah,
than it is on the top. It's amazing.
Yeah. But anyway, I also had the 9-day raft trip down the whole river.
The river's beautiful.
Yeah, so I've done
Right
that,
down the
and I've
middle
done
of it.
North Rim. North Rim's actually nicer than the South Rim, if you only had to pick one. But anyway, I just want to make a note that the Pleasant Valley School District, if you haven't noticed, has went back to televised meetings, so that's good. I'm so looking forward to our park signs. They're going to come up at our last few remaining park sites. I'm looking at Bob over there. I went over to I attended the Greek Festival here a couple of weekends ago out at Freedom Park, and it was great. I want to thank staff for you guys. They obviously set up and did a bunch of stuff, but you guys were working with them. I think it's a great partnership. And I know Eric mentioned we made some good income that weekend off of them and stuff, which is nice. But it was also, I think they did a nice job. It was nice for the community. And it worked. I think it worked out very well. And I was out there. I also did some dancing over there too. So yeah, getting warmed up. And then, like everybody else has talked about the summer concert, I was attending that. I want to thank staff again for doing that and working with the different groups. Upstream was here last weekend, and just like Mark said, I had people come up and tell me the same story that Mark heard, that they've been attending these concerts for years and years, and this was the best one they've ever had, ever attended and stuff. So I want to thank staff for all that work, and hope our partnership with the city can move forward on that. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much.
I'm going to be really short. I agree with everything that Director Malloy said about the concert. I don't think I've ever had anything where this many people just kind of out of the blue said to me, "Hey, that was really good. Were you the guys that pulled that off?" Well, of course, I took credit for you, staff, but you'll be getting your credit sometime in the future. No, you guys did a fabulous job. It was obvious, and let me tell you something else. Even the city knows it. So, great work. Pull that off. There are a few little things that we need to tweak, but other than that, hey, you get my wife to stay at anything the entire time, and you've done something. So, great job. And that's all I have. Anybody have anything else? If not, this meeting is closed.